In this video lecture, we will be discussing how to create a truth table. So what is a truth table? A truth table is a mathematical table which gives the breakdown of the logical function by listing all the values that the function will attain. This table determines the status of the variables and corresponding result when we evaluate the operators or functions. The truth table is composed of rows and columns. The number of rows are determined by the number of combinations of values of the variables. We use the equation 2 raised to n to determine the number of rows. For example, if we have one variable, we have 2 rows. For 2 variables, we have 4 rows. For 3 variables, we have 8 rows, and so forth and so on. While for columns, it shows the result when we evaluate the variables with the operators. The number of operators determine the number of columns. So when we evaluate the equation, we follow a certain hierarchy. Like in algebra, we have MDAS rule. For the logical proposition or operators, we have this hierarchy shown in this table. So based on the hierarchy, based on the table, we evaluate first the negation, followed by and, then or, then implication, and then the last will be biconditional. So for example, we have P or Q implies not R. So when we evaluate this statement, we need to evaluate first not R based on this table. So the result of not R will be the consequence of the implication. Okay, so after not R, we're going to evaluate P or Q. Since based on this hierarchy, it will be third on the ranking. So we need to evaluate P or Q, and the result will be the premise for the implication function. Okay, so this will be the grouping. So P or Q, one column for not R, and then for the implication, another column for our truth table. But in case if we are intended, if our intention will be evaluate first the Q implies not R, we need to include parentheses. Okay, so it will parentheses is the highest on our ranking. It is predefined grouping. We have a predefined grouping. Okay, so again, if we are going to change the order or the rank, the hierarchy or the precedence, use a parenthesis. Okay, so P or 2 Q implies not R is different from P or Q implied 2 not R. We're going to have a different result. Okay, so parenthesis has a big impact when we evaluate a statement. So be careful when we do grouping, okay, when we evaluate. So don't forget parenthesis first, then followed by these 5 operators. Okay, now let's have the truth table for P or Q implies not R. Since we have 3 variables, P, Q, R, therefore we have 8 rows. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 raised to 3 is 8, so we have 8 rows. And the first 3 columns are the possible values for PQR. And then the evaluation of R with negation. This will be your consequence later for your implication. And then P or Q. This will be the premise of the implication. And last, the evaluation of the whole statement. P or Q as your premise implies to R consequence, which is not R. Okay, So the result will be on the last row. So this is the possible value or outcome when we evaluate P or Q implies not R based on the values of PQR. Okay, so this is how we create a truth table. We define the rows based on the number of columns. We define the columns based on the number of operators. Okay, additional columns um, based on the number of operators. Okay, so that's it for this video lecture. So see you on the next video lecture. Thank you for listening.